What's going on, homies? Welcome to another day, a day of the life of me, Wes, and I bring you a conversation, for that is what I do well. And I do it weekly with my grandfather. You can call him Bob, and we're going to give him a quick call. He's been feeling dizzy. So we might be talking a little bit about that. And then I want to get into talking a little bit about secrets, as the title says. So let's do it.
Hi there.
Hello, hello.
How's your world?
My world is good.
Good. Good.
How's yours?
Getting better. Had
Yeah.
a dizzy spell, and I think I'm pretty much over it. It's worse
Okay.
in the morning when I first get up.
Yeah.
But I'm doing good by this time of day, so we'll see.
So have you had a fall at all?
No, I get this almost every spring,
Huh.
and I don't know exactly. At first, everybody treats it as a sinus thing, or allergy, and I end up going in and have what's called an Epley maneuver,
Yeah.
where they reposition the crystals in your inner ear.
Ah.
So I think what had happened was that I'd gotten a new pillow because my neck's been bothering me,
Yeah.
and it changed my sleeping position.
Hmm.
I'm wondering because if I was fine Sunday night, Monday morning I woke up dizzy.
Hmm.
So I don't know. But it's like I said, it's happened before. I didn't have a new pillow, so whatever.
Huh. Well, those dang ear crystals might be up to something.
Yeah. Cruising around and they're not supposed to be.
Yeah. Huh.
But anywho, I hear your sisters are coming to visit next month or something.
They are. Yeah. It's like 2 weeks now. Just like in 2 weeks.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. You got a big time planned out for them yet? Or?
Yeah. Not really. I've been thinking about that. We're gonna do like a dinner party one of the nights.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that feeling of like, oh, I gotta show them around my city. I'm like, oh, what's cool in my city? I forget to enjoy all the unique things about where I live until someone else wants to come see them.
Yeah. Hey, what's Portland known for? Huh?
Yeah.
It'll figure it out. It'd be good just to get together and talk.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
And neither of them have been to the Pacific Northwest before, so I might try to do like a hike to a waterfall. There's a bunch of those that are not too long around the area.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably just now opening up for spring.
Sure.
So, yeah, we'll have a good time.
Give them a little taste of the environment there, huh?
Yeah. Because it really is different.
Mm-hmm.
Not in any crazy ways, but like I've mentioned this before, that just everything is covered in moss. All the trees, the sidewalks, the curb, everything.
Huh. There's too much rain there, huh?
Yeah, and so, that's something where it's like it doesn't affect how you live. And then now I don't even notice it because it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But
They
especially,
will.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I was just thinking earlier about what might be interesting to talk about, because we always drop in and find,
Hmm.
on the path, create the path of discovery. But I was curious because I was wondering if that we about how we both might have managed in our lives, how both ourselves and the people around us have secrets. It's really big to me because of the way my dad was a secretive guy my whole life, and in some ways still is.
Hmm.
And I think some of them, if I were to ask him, he might say, well, that's not a secret. I just didn't, there was no reason for me to share it. Right. And
Yeah.
so that's something. And then there's the stuff that, like, stuff that me or him or anyone might have never told another soul.
Mm.
And so I just wonder about talking about our fathers. If you, in your life or childhood or adulthood, uh, were attuned to your father's secrets, or saw any type of him that was shielded away from anyone else's eyes, and if you ever have had any parts of your life that you've kept to yourself. Not that you need to share, but just surrounding that topic, if that's been a part of decisions you've had to make over the years.
Well, my first reaction to that was I'm looking for negative things
Right.
that I was hiding.
Yeah.
But there's the positive side. There can be the positive side also.
Yeah.
I remember one time, I may have mentioned this once before, Dad and a bunch of the family were sitting here in the living room. We asked Dad what he would have, if there was something else he would have liked to have done
Mm-hmm.
rather than being in the grocery business. And he said he would have liked to have been an artist.
Yeah.
And everybody just looked at each other. There was never a clue other than he went on the phone or just sitting around. He would doodle a lot and make like cartoon characters or something. And we just, that's just what he did to kill time,
Yeah.
His drinking was always on the negative side of it, was always covered, but I think none of us ever really knew how much it was.
Yeah.
We knew he did, but that was what he would kind of have stuff stashed around,
Yeah.
I'm still thinking. I don't know. Nothing else is popping up on his side.
Right. And that's a hard thing to know, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the stash, that's something that I was always pretty aware of growing up, was my father's stash of things.
Mm. I think for me, I've always wondered, what if I would have become a more spiritual person, leader type.
Yeah.
Because for a while in grade school, I figured I'd be a priest.
Wow.
And then I blamed it on my mother. because he would have loved to have a priest in the family, you know. But I know it was kind of an expectation in a way, you know, that maybe, you know, that kind of thing. It was a little pressure there. But I'm not, I don't know. I had a lot of things to work through before I could ever be in a position like that, I think.
That's so interesting. I don't know that I ever knew that about you, and I don't know if you remember exactly when it happened where you kind of moved on from that idea. But hearing you say that, I'm thinking like, oh man, like how I would have loved to listen to your sermons.
I actually think what happened to me is that teenage years kicked in. And then I became more interested in sports and women, and I would say cars, but just owning one to get around.
Right. I think that is interesting because I imagine that that's a similar experience for a lot of people who, through what they start to be drawn to in their teen years, it can almost feel like by doing that, you're sacrificing that other type of life. That there's no way that now, as a teen who's like doing all of this non-godly, non-churchy stuff, that you still would have a pathway to being a holy person, you know? Because like, yeah, it almost reminds me of like politicians where it's just like, do I, you know, like, will I be able to most benefit from hearing priest and pastor type messages from the types of people who live their lives knowing that that's what they will become? Like, is their life experience going to resonate with me in the way they think about things? Because in order to get to that position, they had to make all of these choices that were ones that didn't allow them to think that they were going off track. And you know, that's not like every single pastor was on the straight and narrow their whole life or anything, but yeah, like you said, how it just, you just moved on and it was no longer kind of in your vision.
I think my readings and everything now have answered that question in my head. It was like it was a choice that was made at some level. And I think, you know, we've talked about ego before, and ego is the thing that points out things in your life that it tells you will make you happy, successful, joyful, and all those things that really don't work. But I still chose that path for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to break. I still laugh at times when, you know, I see the choice better now.
What do you mean?
Between an ego motivated thing and a spiritual motivated thing.
Yeah.
So I mean spiritual more in what? In the spirit, and doing good rather than doing what I want.
Yeah.
Those kinds of choices that pop up all the time. I even got into this. I sent that one thing to you the other day about what is the purpose of not killing.
Yeah.
That's been fascinating
Hmm.
because it just takes you get past the first thing about, killing another person. And that's the easy stuff, because you kind of know. But then you get down in, and I went back over to the sensei yesterday, and I still don't have my head around this, but he says if he had a bell there, he says, okay, right here is what we call a bell. And as soon as we give it a name, we've killed it.
Yeah.
And then at that level, then it was just like, holy moly. Because I'm thinking of things like, oh, we're all in this together, and you remember how we used to talk about that? What is that?
Yeah.
And I think my final statement to him on that particular precept was, I am that. And that's kind of what came to me after the end of several nights of meditating.
Hmm.
Am I digressing from your original point?
No.
Probably. Because I was also thinking about, okay, one of the things is it lessens the power of the ego.
Not killing?
Yes. Because it's another choice away from what ego might want
Right.
you to do to bring you more peace of mind or success or, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then I had the one, if you want something, give it away, which would fit in there as far as life is concerned.
Uh-huh.
But it just makes you, like we like to do, just get in there deeper and deeper. And I said, it's just like, I told him at first it's just like a cauldron. I said, but that word has got too much negative stuff with it. But it's just like a never-ending pot of answers that could be. There's not an answer for it,
Yeah.
It always got me on the one, what is the purpose of not stealing?
Hmm.
And I've been kind of digging into that one too. But it's these things are definitely choices that we make, all the time. The main written answer for not stealing is be happy with what you have.
Yeah.
But then I'm already wandering around kind of past that,
Yeah.
You know what? My best example for me of what I've done is when I retired, I bought all these woodworking tools.
Mm-hmm.
And I never used most of them to very much. And I can now look at that and say, I thought every one of those power tools were going to make me happier. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And it's like you said on the hopscotch kind of a thing. You draw it all out. And what if you just sit there and admire your drawing and don't use it? I can see that as you think the joy is in the setup by getting things. And then you find out after you get them, of course, that it's not there, because you want another thing and you want another thing.
Yeah.
This has been pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But it's so much of it. I've been over there a couple times, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time with the ritual and the bowing that you go through with this in a zendo, or where you meditate.
Yeah.
You know, you bow as you go in, and you bow to everybody in there. But I also see that as a setup, as a what can we say about a ritual? It gets you ready.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a better word for it, but I don't know exactly what it is. Builds anticipation, maybe. But I think that's basically what it's all about, because I can relate to it just in doing meditation myself. If I take a little bit of time at the beginning to do breathing exercises, then when I start, it's quicker to go deeper.
Yeah.
Because you've kind of got everything settled. And I look back at my Catholic church training. The rituals there are just ridiculous. They used to drive me crazy. Because there I could never see what the end result was.
Yeah.
I gave an example best I could to the sensei. He said, "Well, you know, what are you after?" I don't know if I told you this. If he had a picture of a piece of chocolate cake or of a chocolate cake,
Yeah.
and you also had a real life piece of chocolate cake, I said, my life is the picture. I want the real thing.
Mm.
And then he laughed and he said there was some Zen Dogen, kind of a guy that had made the same statement with a rice cake. I said, cool. Maybe I was him before. I don't know.
I believe that.
I probably came back as a mosquito or something. That was something else we worked through, but that's a little lighter. What about not killing, and what about bugs? And how do you rationalize that? And basically, they say if there's something that's could be a danger to your life, carrying disease or something, then it would make more sense to dispose of them.
Yeah.
I don't know that there would have been, I'm trying to think if there would have been other things that would have intrigued me. I think part of this is partly why I got into psychology and into counseling. But again, I got everything for it, all the credentials, and then I didn't do much of it, except for the brief time with the children's home.
It's like the power tools.
Yep. I'm good at that. Like the garden, I'm good at getting the garden ready, putting everything up, sitting there planting the seeds. And the rest of the summer, I watch the weeds grow. It's like, what the heck is going on here? Different reasons for doing it. And I wonder if there isn't just some, I think, you're supposed to have a garden. So if I just get a garden, this is going to make me happy.
Right.
I mean, that would fit with everything else I've been saying.
Yeah, I've thought about this. I posted a TikTok, I think, about the other day, where I'm like, a big part of how I learned about navigating the environment around me as a child was about like getting to the finish line with as little effort as possible,
Mm-hmm.
finding every shortcut, finding every little way to steal back some of my own, the idea of my own autonomy. When I talked about how I have the specific memory of my sophomore year of high school, I was in a world history class and we had like a short essay due like every Monday. And week after week on Sunday night, I would get onto my Facebook and start messaging all the people I could think of who were in that same class to see if I could get them to send me their essay so that I could like look at it and like copy it basically.
Mm.
Or like their notes for the reading, because I hadn't done the reading and I needed to get the essay done. So I felt that my time was somehow easier for me to, instead of reading for an hour, I would scour and message all these, acquaintances and friends all afternoon into the evening, where it was like, oh, this wasn't even actually about me trying to minimize the work. It was about my perception of like getting to the finish line without effort. Yeah. And I just think about the way that mentality has stuck with me in a lot of ways. And so I'm like facing it now, where I see that it's not a tactic that's actually in my best interest. It's like you said, like because of what you said, where you're like, I studied this, I trained in these concepts and ideas, but did I use it as much as I maybe thought I would or wish I would have? And that's where I think about like, where in my life is my focus, attention, and what can I learn that I want to use?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a way of thinking about my knowledge and my expertise, like not as something that exists in me from my past experiences, but something that I can choose to start,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels exciting.
Is there another level of being fearful that you couldn't do whatever it was you were supposed to do?
Yes, I think so, but not really.
Okay.
Right? It's like I see it as a difference between like between couldn't and wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. And you're
Where,
growing with wouldn't.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like
Your time part. Oh, go ahead.
like getting caught up, you know, back to this essay metaphor where it's like, it's not that I thought I couldn't write the essay and learn the history in order to do so. It's that I got to a point where I just saw the timeline of what was in front of me as a black or white. I, at this point, would not be able to do this unless I do it this other sneaky way.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of what I think about in like now is I randomly saw a video a while back about like a a care a care professional advising an older person to pull their feet back towards them when trying to stand up from a chair, and it would make the gaining your balance easier.
Right.
Randomly. And I used it with one of my clients a couple days ago. And that really sparked this idea of like, whoa, there's like stuff that I can learn. This one thing that I randomly learned from TikTok that helped someone else in a moment when they were struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of like lit up this part of my brain where it's like almost like a type of overwhelming, like, what if I cared about learning stuff like that? Like, how might I be able to affect people in the future?
Mm-hmm.
And then all these million potential thoughts start playing. I start to see in my mind's eye, and then something in me is like shuts it down. It's like too intimidating or something. I don't know. Where it's like I'm like, okay, but not yet. And that's like that feels like how I've been living a lot. Is like, oh, I could really commit to this, but not yet. It's like I don't need to yet. I don't need to care about this stuff yet. I'm like, well, I'm just starting this job. I don't really know what the future holds. I don't need to care about learning stuff like that yet. And I don't want to stay in that state of mind, really.
It's not very productive.
Yeah.
Or growth wise.
Yeah.
You want it. You were talking about doing shortcuts, but then you randomly found this piece of information that you could put to use. And isn't that pretty much how we go through life, is randomly things come up and we do an oh yeah kind of a moment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't really shut them down. You can think about them, you know, it's like stoking the fire. You keep directing your thoughts to these kinds of assisted things.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. That's all you have to do. You start with, I wonder if, or something like that, and even on what you're saying about your own frustrations with your time and work.
Uh-huh.
And I hear a little bit of that in what you're saying here, too. Time seems to be a big factor. Not time, but what you do with it.
Yeah.
And everything. Not now, you said. I don't want to do it now. Maybe later.
Right.
And I'm still just thinking about, okay, what would be your thinking process for later, not now?
Right, because later it becomes now.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, but what are you doing now then? Like, it's almost just kind of like, listen to that little whisper, like let that guide you, and not this whisper of avoidance.
Well, you're not dealing the now.
Well, I guess the avoidance isn't a whisper. It's like,
Yeah. You're waiting for another now.
right. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard to. I'm just thinking of experiencing the now and how difficult it is to stay there and not relate to something like it in the past or something you hope for in the future,
Yeah.
It's kind of like why I like what I'm doing is that on these whatever questions you have to think about, which is what you would be doing. I want to think about things I can do that would make, for these people's lives easier or better or something.
Right.
And that's what you do, and you may, but then your brain kicks automatically into, I've already done this, or I need something for this, but it all stimulates, and you just gotta wait. You gotta wait for the answer to float.
Yeah.
Or you can go ahead and do something which could be right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be like it was in your face, and that's not what we're talking about. You were at work and you had to come up with a decision is different than what kind of things, could I do?
And like, yeah, but it's like there was lots of moments before I learned that little trick where I just was standing there watching it be a struggle to stand up out of bed.
Sure.
And I didn't know that there was this little change that could be helpful.
But you were thinking about it.
Not before.
Correct. Not that particular thing until you saw it was an issue. But then you thought about it. Didn't you? I mean, I'm asking, I guess that's. You saw these people struggling, trying to stand up from the bed or chair or whatever.
Yeah.
and you were wishing there was something you could say that could help them.
I wasn't. I just thought that's the way it was.
Ah, okay.
You know, I'm thinking this person has Parkinson's and it's hard for him to get up. I'll be here to offer him my hands to help pull him up if he needs.
Right, right.
Right. But after I learned that trick, I was like, oh, hey, sit back down for a second. Try this. And he did. And he was like, oh, that is easier. Right. It's like not knowing that the unexamined approach to standing was not the ideal launching form until it was pointed out by a random video. And when I watched the video, I wasn't even thinking, oh, I could tell this to my client.
Just came together.
All of a sudden, I'm seeing him struggle, and the two things connect. The fact that this struggle is happening in front of me, and the fact that I just learned a solution for the struggle, and now I can bridge those two things together.
Beautiful.
It really was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I see then a way that I can view my role in a lot of situations as being a bridge. I think about, I've been thinking about how I envision my relationship with my parents deepening when I live a lot closer to them. And I see myself as needing to both offer for us to take a drive somewhere and then to be the bridge so that we both arrive at a place that they wouldn't have known they could go to nor wanted to go to until we're on the bridge to get there. And I think, just because this is still on my mind, that I think often is the role that a pastor plays in giving a sermon. Right? I'm like, part of me is sitting here being like, Grandpa, I want you to write a sermon for me. I mean, we don't have to call it that, right? Because it's so loaded with its tradition. But when I was in college in the choir, at the beginning of every rehearsal, one of the members would stand up and kind of basically give like a short, like 5-minute sermon, even though we didn't call it that. But I took that responsibility very seriously, and I sat down and wrote out a sermon, and each person would only have to do it like one time a year. And I remember thinking like, man, if there was some place where this was expected of me, I would love to do this all the time. Because the fact that, oh, my day is coming up next week, I should write that. There's no other real thing that's happened in my life where I've felt called to sit down and think about what is a message that I can have and put together in a meaningful way that could positively affect the listeners. Anyway, yeah, but being a bridge of like, here's an experience we all have, and I mean, that's what storytelling is, you know?
Hmm.
That's what is the purpose of not killing is. It's a bridge.
Hmm. And processing.
Yeah.
I'm stuck. It just seems like there's something between writing that essay for choir and writing the one for history.
Yeah. Ooh, wow. Totally.
And I can see, the motivation difference there.
Yeah. But you know what else it was about the essay for choir? I felt like it was extra important for me to put together something impactful because I was one of the few non-Christians there.
Mm.
And it's like I wanted to prove that I wasn't any less spiritual than everyone else
Hmm.
just because I didn't believe in Jesus. Like I had something to prove.
Right. Are you still doing that?
Doing what? Trying to prove myself?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. I mean, not in the
Well,
same way, right? Because it's like it's less concentrated. But it's the type of thing of like this knowing of like I don't do things the way other people that a lot of other people do. So
hmm. And you want to, again, prove that the way you do these things is still okay or better.
yeah, or just meaningful or you know, not lesser, I guess.
Hmm. What do you feel towards those Christians and for what they believe?
I mean, it feels like such a loaded question. Like,
You feel different or superior?
I definitely think I feel a bit superior. Only because it's like
Are you there?
my like my like my prism of what the spectrum of which of life that I can take in and resonate with is a lot larger. Right? Like this
Mhm.
idea of like black and white television versus color, where it's like if you've never seen color television, black and white television doesn't seem lesser to anything. It's amazing.
Right.
Right? If you've always believed in the Christianity that is sold to you, and that the people around you believe, and that you were drilled into your brain as a child, and that you resonated with, and that your friends agree with, and your church friends, and you're in an environment where that's everything you see, and it's always black and white, and we know the stories, and we have our favorites, and we listen to the black and white sermons, and then it's like all of this talk and whispers of how other people out there are doing stuff that you have to adjust your mind to. That's like, and I don't know this, I don't love this metaphor really, but I think it's apt, because it literally is I'm not going to open myself up to a bunch of stuff that isn't this, that's already in my hands. And that feels like you're missing out. It's like, I don't want to take away people's black and white television, but I want them to not be afraid to look at what I see. Because lots of the messages that are on their TV are also on mine. It's just that it's alongside this whole other, a lot of other potentials and stories and thoughts and stuff. So I think in college, I was at a Christian school, in a Christian world. Every single place we sang our choral songs was in a chapel, right? So I knew that was where I was at. And so it felt just like extra important to not hide myself for the comfort of the Christians. But now I think it's interesting, because as I now see myself working with older people, I know that the majority of them, at least for the next long while in my life, will be Christian. And I want to be able to honor that and not step all over it, while also,
okay, let me interrupt just a second.
Yeah, please.
What I've been working on with living with this situation, is that to be able, the only problem now I think I have with them is that it's so closed.
Yeah.
And they, I can't disagree necessarily with what they're saying, because there's no proof one way or the other. But if I'm trying to learn to accept, the only problem I would have with them is that they're not open to, well, what about this? And what about this?
Yeah.
And they don't even, or are afraid to evaluate what they're doing. I don't know how many times I've been, well, that's sacrilegious. You can't believe that. It's like, what? Those kinds of things that are the walls that are put up. That's, religion aside, that's why we can talk, because we're open to different ideas and what ifs. And I think in that realm of religion, that's why it's so hard to talk, because people are locked in. Rather than, okay, that's cool. What if you're wrong?
Yeah, I just looked up.
And and not say it with any kind of a threat involved, or anything. But they don't entertain that at all. Go ahead.
No, that's a good point. I was just looking up sacrilege because I was thinking about the definition of the word. A violation or misuse of what is regarded as sacred. So, right. Yeah, it's very like, it's like a word that hinges upon a greater assumption that everyone holds the same things as sacred as everyone else.
Mm-hmm. A weird thing a long time ago that just really hit me, and it's probably some philosopher's statement or something that I read somewhere. But these guys were driving along the road, and one guy says, "Hey, look at all those white sheep there in the field." The other guy says, "Well, they're white on this side." And you just never know for sure. To me, that kind of just made my point. It's like, oh shit, yeah. Isn't that kind of a crazy thing?
Yeah.
But that's what I feel like running up against the sacrilegious things, This is the way it is. Yeah, but what about the other side? I'm not trying to prove anything. I just want more information.
Right.
And people don't understand that either. It's like, well, just be satisfied with what you have. It's like, no, that's not the game I play. Well, how can you ever be happy? Are you happy? I don't know. But I think it's, there's certain things that you don't talk about, religion and politics. Those are the two main ones, I guess, anymore. But it's because people are so closed in what they believe.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is like the people who are most adamant about shutting down, like don't go there, where I was talking to someone about this recently because it's somewhat similar to Lane's family, actually. They're Catholic, but my friend Bethany, her dad used to be a pastor, and her and I became friends because she does tarot readings on TikTok with tarot cards.
Yeah.
And she was saying that her dad is no longer a pastor and he's really become open to all things outside of Christianity. And she was very kind of amazed and impressed by the open-mindedness that he's shown in the past years. But her older brother works for a mega church as like the music director. And he is like, shut it down. I will not even be in the same house as someone who, does sacrilegious things or has sacrilegious ceremonies at their house. Like this way where I was thinking about like, there's just like if I think back to like the black and white TV metaphor, it's like, hey, would you be could I show you what is on my TV? And they just clamp their eyes shut. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. And it just feels so fragile. That's what Christianity seems to me. it seems that it is such a fragile belief that you have to close your eyes in all these different arenas of life in order to maintain what you believe is so important to your life. And that just feels it's so interesting to me,
Hmm.
because I want to open my eyes wider and wider.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I guess we got to let them do what they're doing. But
Yeah.
we don't. And it's the only thing we can do, I think, is just compartmentalize them, and go on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is too bad. I still want to get in there and stir the pot. But I think part of the reason, this will land me in hell, but is that they've got the message all wrong. Because I believe the message is quit screwing around. You can do the same thing Jesus did.
Absolutely.
That was his message.
Yep.
Don't, and I have a hard time saying it so it sounds different, but I did all of these things so you could do the same thing.
Right.
It's not so you can trail along behind me and do half of it. You're an equal.
Exactly.
But that's not going to, that was been the biggest one I've been sacrilegious on. That, he died for your sins. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to tag along and be nice to people, mostly. Yeah, no, it's the non-dual world. Are you familiar with that term anyway?
Yeah.
Where there's the spiritual and then the one we live. And this whole stuff I'm interested in at this point, trying to find open doors, is that we are living in the picture and not with the real thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And lots are satisfied with that. I personally think they're going to be pretty surprised. However, I may be the one. There was one. You want to find out what people think? Here's one question to ask them.
Okay.
Do you believe Hitler's in heaven? If you take a side and say, well, no, he can't be there. Look at all the bad things he's done. So it's kind of like, well, then you've got to earn your way in. You got to do good things. And I do not believe that. I'm not saying you should do bad things.
It's
but I
like,
don't think that's the right criteria.
It's like, actually, Jesus died for Hitler's sins too.
Right.
He's a person.
But if you ask that to somebody, you will immediately know what their background is and where they're coming from with religion.
Hmm.
I've done it without going into anything beyond it, just to see what. It's like, oh yeah, wow. That's about all answer I give, because I'm not. I think it's a lost cause, maybe. But
Yeah.
But like you just said, if somebody actually questioned me back, which they haven't, what do you think? It's like, well, like you said, I thought Jesus died for everybody's sins, but boy, I don't know. That's a tough one. Just to get me out of it. I don't know. I think at the moment where I'm at, I think Zen Buddhists at their base have it have a lot of stuff figured out. I have a hard time, like I said, with their ritual and all their different characters, gods that they have, and all that. And that's probably part of my training rather than anything that is actually there. But they seems like they've been there. If I ask a question about something, oh yeah, boom, 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 boom. Other religions don't. It's like, well, pray about that.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, thank you. I've never understood prayer anyway. I asked Leota that the other day. It's like, well, she asked me when I meditate, she says, do you pray? I said, pray for what? Well, things you want. I says, no. I pray for openness to see what's available, what I'm going to get, what's the next move.
Right.
Just, didn't comprehend. I've never understood why you ask God, tell God what you want if he already knows everything anyway.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is so inconsistent. But anyway, God's probably shaking his head up there right now. Tonight, I am going, for the first time ever, Zoom a meditation with a group over in Ottawa.
Cool.
I've never Zoomed. I have no idea what it's going to be like.
I think you'll
How can you Zoom everybody sitting around and being quiet without peeking? It's crazy. I know, it'll be interesting. I asked Sensei, I says, okay, is this just audio or audio and visual? He says, I will ring, or he hits the, what do you call them? The little bowls that you get, the bells.
Yeah.
3 times, and at the end, twice, and I'll have a few words to say at the end of it. I said, okay. Should be interesting.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it'll be palpable to just kind of have that physical representation of the fact that you're not alone in that meditation.
Mm-hmm. And I think I don't want the visual, but I do. No,
Yeah.
I want to see them. I don't want them to see me. That's basically what I'm thinking. And I don't know why, just because it's new.
Yeah. I think you can, you can choose to do that.
I'm thinking, yeah. But I don't, it's not going to be a scanning thing or anything. I would imagine the camera is focused probably on him. I don't know. And it's going to be an hour too.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So I don't know how many actually will be there. It seems like he has more internet people than ones that actually show up there.
Yeah.
Which would make sense. He said he had some from South Carolina that check in frequently. He says he prefers them to go over and meditate there, of course. But he was telling me this living 30 miles away as compared to these guys that live in South Carolina. Like, I understand.
Well, good luck on your first Zoom.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to get it ready. I have to check in and I've not done it, make sure I got all the things crossed and dotted. But I think I do, so. I'll let you go now. I get ready for this next part. I'll send you a message, let you know what it is.
Yeah, please do.
Alrighty.
All
Take
right.
care, Wes. I love you.
Yeah, love you too. Good talking.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye. Oh, that's nice. That is nice, bro. Oh, I feel fulfilled. Interesting that we wandered our way to religion. I think I brought us there because it really started when he shared that as a kid he thought he would be a priest. How interesting. He ended up being a counselor for special ed students for most of his career. Teacher, maybe not counselor in name. Yeah. God, I want to write a sermon now. I want him to write me a sermon. I want us to write sermons, and on our next call, we recite them. Ugh. All right. Thanks for listening. That was a great one. Check you next week. Peace.